Seth Greenberg of the Mothership joining us on the program. And as Fritzy wanted me to make sure I pointed out, Seth is a member of the Jewish Sports Hall of Fame and went in there in 2012. Good Yontif, much nachas, and Passover coming up here, Seth. So thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Good to see you. I hope you're feeling well. And, man, I'll tell you one thing. It's been an interesting last 3 weeks with the NCAA tournament.
Wait. What do you get for going into the Jewish Hall of Fame?
You get, you go to Dick's Hills, you get a nice little trophy. Your mom feels good about you for a while until she doesn't. And it's a mitzvah. It's and it's one of the few Hall of Fames you go in and they don't ask you for your check after you go in.
Okay. If I would have said this is how basketball is going to end in April, Connecticut winning, and what we saw in the women's game with Iowa and LSU, what would be more surprising with the reaction and surprises that we had?
I would probably, man, that is tough. I would say Connecticut because they were unranked coming into the season. Connecticut lost to New Mexico State in the opening round of the NCAA tournament a year ago. They lost their backcourt. They brought in Tristan Newton, who was a two guard, and they moved to point guard. Now, look, they had good pieces, but they hadn't come together. They had a redshirt in Alex Caravan, who hadn't played a minute of basically Division I college basketball yet. He had a huge impact on this team. They were relying on a freshman coming off the bench, Donovan Clingan. So I would say that it would probably be Connecticut. Their journey's been phenomenal. And the move back to the Big East was the vehicle. Yeah. But the driver of that bus, Danny Hurley, that dude he's the real deal.
If I said that you could recruit players or you could do transfer portal if you were still coaching, so you could get high school players or you go transfer, what would you use?
I'd find a balance. I would use the transfer portal to fill in basically spots where we needed help. They lost their backcourt. They needed a guard. They went there. They also recruited Donovan Clingan, who's going to be the best post player in college basketball next year. So I think you've got to find a balance. Look, the Blue Bloods can always recruit high school players because they're only recruiting the very best high school players. Here's the problem. It's those other guys that they're recruiting high school players that maybe not already, that have to take time to understand how to play hard, how to play with other good players. The problem is the lack of patience for those guys. Those guys go to a place and you know what? There's a good chance they're going to leave because the static around all of these young players, Dan, is so great that if they don't get what they want when they want it, they feel like the best thing is to move on. And that's where I think Connecticut has really done a good job. They've gotten some high school guys, developed those guys. They've bought in, and he didn't just acquire talent. What he's done is he's built a team. The pieces fit. They embrace roles. They don't do what they can't do. I heard you talking a little earlier about the conversation with the non-conference. They lost 6 of 8. Well, first of all, Danny had COVID. He missed a bunch of practices. You get into league play, there are no surprises. There are no surprises in league play. People know what they're going to give, what they're going to take away, who they're going to force to make plays. So you're going to lose games in league play. They lost twice to Xavier, very, very good team. They lost at Providence. St. John's, I think, at home was a little bit of a shocker. They lost to a certain style of team, but watching them practice, and I go watch them practice a whole bunch, the standard they set in practice is unbelievable. The guy can really coach it. The other thing you guys were talking about earlier is Danny Hurley didn't miss any steps, Dan. All right? Look, his basketball career as a player was maybe what everyone wanted it to be. He faced his demons. He lived with it. He was an assistant coach to his dad at St. Anthony's. His dad runs the best practice I've ever seen, including watching Hubie Brown, John Calipari, Bill Self, and any other person that we would all know who they are. His dad is a master teacher and coach. Assistant coach for his dad. Assistant coach at Rutgers, got fired. Head coach at St. Benedict's High School, built a national high school power. Wagner, low Division I, 25 games his last year. Rhode Island, mid-major. All right, back-to-back NCAA tournaments, advance in the tournament, and then to UConn. So, he's 50 years old, but he paid his dues. Nothing was given to him. He went step by step to build an understanding of what it takes to be an elite leader, an elite coach. He grew as the season went along this year. So I'm so impressed with his growth and what he's been able to do.
He's Seth Greenberg, ESPN college basketball analyst. You start to look at what is, sports are, it's a copycat sport. When, like the greatest show on turf, the Rams, everybody wanted to be like that. Everybody wants to be like Golden State. Now you start to look at college basketball, and is there a blueprint that you think, and maybe this isn't for the Blue Bloods, but the mid-majors, although I can't call UConn a mid-major, but the blueprint for success in the next 5 years or 10 years? Are we witnessing that with name, image, and likeness and the transfer portal?
Yeah, I think the blueprint is to find a balance, but never lower your standard. That you've got to have a foundation. Look, we're looking at these teams that are in the Final Four year and year and year and year. They're veteran teams. They're teams that are invested in winning. They're guys that buy into roles. I mean, think about the Villanova national championship teams. All right, they weren't one and done teams. They were teams that were put together and grew. Think about North Carolina's national championship teams. They had great players, they had pros, but they weren't one and done. They were experienced. Think about Baylor and that great backcourt. All right, they were upper class guys. Think about this Connecticut team. So I think you got to find a balance between the player development, evaluating, and recruiting. The most important part of recruiting is evaluating who can play for your head coach, and then filling those voids in with the right transfers that will buy in and take you from a good team to a great team. Each school is different, but the top 20s, the blue bloods, quote unquote blue bloods, and Connecticut's a blue blood. 5 national championships since 1999. Think about this. During that time period, Kentucky's got 1, Kansas has got 2, Duke's got 3, Carolina's got 3, Connecticut's got 5. So, I mean, the blue bloods are going to be able to recruit elite players, but just acquiring talent doesn't win games.
But
they've got a McDonald's All-American coming in, but they've also got guys returning.
But look at John Calipari and his blueprint. He's had more talent than any coach probably has in the last 30 years. More players drafted. Yeah. He loves to point out they've made billions of dollars, but it doesn't work in the bigger picture of winning championships. And he's got another unbelievable recruiting class coming in. Are we going to see the same with, Kentucky and Coach Cal? Got a lot of talent, and they're going to be one and done.
That's why he's got to complement into the portal. That's why he's got to get Oscar Sheba to come back first and foremost, which I think he actually will end up coming back. But he's got to complement DJ Wagner and that recruiting class.
Yeah.
He's got to complement them with juniors and seniors that will be great role players. Juniors and seniors in the portal that will basically coach their locker room. You're only as good as your locker room. Like whatever we do, all right, what you do, you're only as good as the people you surround yourself with. All right. So who's going to coach their locker room? Who's going to teach those young kids? Like I saw something the other day, McDonald's All-American game. They interviewed that freshman class. And they said, we're going to be the freshman class that brings Coach Cal another championship. Those guys have no clue of how hard college basketball is. They're watching this stuff on TV, Dan. They're thinking, oh, yeah, that's easy. And then you know what? This is not EYBL. This is not grassroots basketball. There's a guy coaching that other team that knows exactly what he's going to give and what he's going to take away. He knows your weaknesses. He's going to force you to your weaknesses. You need someone to teach those guys how to play with other good players, how to compete. You can't win, I don't think, with 5 freshmen. You need veteran maturity, toughness that can coach your locker room so that when you go and lose 6 of 8. Like, here's the thing. Let me ask you a question. They lose 6 of 8, Connecticut. If they had a team of freshmen and it's 6 of 8, now we're getting into February. The static around those kids, all right, that think they're one and dones or are one and dones, they're not thinking about winning a national championship. They're thinking about, we got 4 more weeks. I got to get my workout guy. I got to get ready for my interviews. I got to get ready for the draft. They're not thinking about winning a championship because they don't have both feet in. It's impossible. The economy of college basketball in relation to the NBA draft of one and done, it's impossible if you hit a roadblock like Connecticut hit, losing those games, maybe to keep your team together if you're just one and done. You've got to have someone in that locker room that the focus is, and a coaching step that the focus is, all right, where we are right now. And I think that's going to be the formula.
You know, having spoken to, well, Jay Wright and Jim Boeheim, the relief, like the sense of relief that they're not coaching anymore is really unbelievable. That you would think, God, they're going to miss it. Tom Izzo is still doing it. I mean, these guys, there's a couple of dinosaurs, but not many. You know, I think they're looking at this NIL and transfer portal and, you know, what is going on. I mean, Patino's going to coach till he dies. But some of these.
So Izzo.
Yeah, but some of these guys are like, you know, I mean, Jay Wright said, yeah, unbelievable. This weight lifted off my shoulders. It does damage to these coaches, and I wonder how many can be in there for the long haul anymore.
You like everything for Jay Wright. My daughter played volleyball in Villanova, so I was around him all the time. Is about the culture. How can you maintain a culture in this environment of college basketball? I mean, it's really, really hard because it's so easy to walk. And NIL is not NIL, man. Let's face it; it's pay for play.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we call it NIL. But it's not NIL. A collective isn't NIL. It's pay for play, which is fine. I have like people say, "Oh, no." I have no problem. But let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
Let's not label it something it isn't. I think in the next 4 years we're going to have players are going to have 2-year contracts, so that will control the transfer portal. But I also think next 4 years we're going to have 4 conferences. The NCAA tournament's going to be those 4 conferences. The one bid leagues are all going to go into one pool. They're going to play each other to play into the NCAA tournament. So more teams from those 4 conferences that might have 20 or 25 teams in them will be in the tournament because basically that's where the money is being generated. But it's something. It's another thing you got to manage. You know, I saw Jay the other night at dinner. It was funny. I asked Patty. I said, "You enjoying retirement?" Because that's what my wife calls what I do now, retirement. You know, because the season's over and. She turned to Karen and my wife. She said, "We are loving it."
Yeah.
So, you know, look, the business has changed. It's always been a business, but we never got in. Guys in my generation never got into it for money. It became money, but like you just wanted a team to coach. My first job was 12.5. I mean, I was happy as a lark. You know, I thought I was a millionaire. You know, my first job at head coaching job was $60,000. I thought I was a millionaire. I never had an agent for coaching. I was an idiot. You know, but you know, it's you get a team to coach. That's what you always wanted to do. You live in your dream. You didn't think it. Now it's a business.
Backup point guards in college basketball making more than that.
Oh, goodness gracious! I mean, I think a lot of schools are doing what I call across the board. So they have either collectives where everyone makes the same amount. I mean, $200,000, $300,000. I mean, if you put your Dan, I just want to let you know, if you put your name in the portal and became a free agent, all right, you could make a lot of money. And then I'll tell you the other thing is now you've got these new, we used to call them runners, that would like get on college campuses, develop relationships with players, then hand them off to the agent. Now the runners are agents, but what they're doing is you had a pretty good season. I come to say, Dan, you know, you had a pretty good season. You know, it's great that you're at school X, Y, and Z. But I tell you, I just talked to these guys over here. They really like you. The starting figure is X. Well, but wait a second. But I really like where I'm at. I'm playing for coach. I like my role. I like my teammates. Whoa, you're not listening now. Dan, I'm telling you, this school here, well, yeah, that sounds great because that agent's going to get 20% of the deal, number one. So do they have unconditional love? And number two is, like, as a player, you've got to understand it's like an NBA trade. You always know what you're getting rid of. You never know what you're getting. But it is also a business.
But look at
the
that
money
kid
that's
at
being
Oral
tossed
Roberts.
around is crazy.
That kid at
Max
Oral.
Asmus.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to make some money on the open market here.
Oh man, he's going to some money. That dude's if Nigel Pack's worth $400,000 a year for 2 years, basically $800,000 an apartment and a car. Max Asmus, that dude's making $500,000.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah, at least. Yeah.
Easy.
Well, okay, no names. Best recruiting story that you ever heard about what somebody got.
The best recruiting story, league. You mean back in the day?
Whatever somebody got.
Look, back in the day, what it came down to, there was honor amongst thieves, right? I mean, that's just the way it is. I could just tell you my funniest recruiting story is I'm recruiting a kid. This is personal, and it's not about a lot, but I walk into a gym in Georgia, and Wimp Sanderson is there, and Sonny Smith is there, and I was working for Bill Foster at Miami. We're just starting a program down, and I sit down and I sit with Coach Sanderson and Coach Smith, and they turned to me and legitimately straight faced and said, "Seth, I know Bill don't cheat, and my opening number is 50, which was 50,000. That was like in 84, 85. And I know Sonny's going to go to 100. So what the hell are you doing here?" And I mean, like back in that, and I remember that was before. So I got it back to the hotel. I called Coach Foster, and the first question he asked was, "Well, who was there?" And I said, "Sonny and Wimp." He goes, "Well, that was a waste of time." Oh, that was so funny. I said, "Coach, I thought he goes, "We're done. It's like a card game. We got to know when to hold them and when to fold them." Next prospect.
Great to talk to you, and thanks for
thanks for
joining us
having
as
me.
always. All right, thank you,
I
Seth.
appreciate you, man.
That's
Thank you.
Seth Greenberg, former college coach, ESPN college basketball analyst. We'll take a break. Got our play of the day coming up.